All right, so thanks to so many of you who have reached out and congratulated Gabby and I. And the story of how this all came to be will come out in the next few days. Maybe I'll do a one-on-one with Gabby. But, I've always tried to keep this side of life on the personal side. But this is something that, even if it hits the radio airwaves, I think it should be shouted from the rooftops. This is just a story of love finding its way 5 years on and off. And this year I said this has to be permanent. And here we are. We are engaged, baby. But I did have some other eyes on the news this weekend. And I just have to say, tomorrow we're going to talk with the National Taxpayers Union about this issue of Israel. And believe it or not, we still sanction Israel. Do you know that? Did you know we have sanctions on the state of Israel, even during wartime? We'll talk to Brian Riley of the Free Trade Initiatives Department of the NTU tomorrow about this. But I just have to say, can you get a more backwards ambassador for Israel? This has been on my mind all weekend, even through the proposal, even through the birthday weekend. This has been on my mind, and I haven't been able to talk about it because we've been a little busy. But it bothers me that while we're in wartime supporting Israel, guess who they thought would be a great idea to be the United States ambassador to Israel? Ever heard of a guy named Jack Lew? So Jack Lew is an American attorney and politician who served as the 76th United States Secretary of the Treasury from 2013 to 2017. Why does this matter? Well, he was the architect, one of them, behind the Iran deal. That's right, Jack Lew, the man behind the Iran deal, which states clearly, Iranian government does, death to Israel, death to America. The White House thinks this is a perfect pick to be the ambassador to Israel. A guy who pretty much wanted to align with the Iranian government, and wrote the book for the deal itself. And I can see why the Republicans would be really, really not in favor and weary of solidifying this pick for ambassador. I mean, how can you say you support Israel and then also say, but we're going to pick a guy that was an architect of the Iran deal while U.S. Secretary of Treasury from 2013 to 2017. And oh, by the way, the Iran deal was not going to stop the weaponry, was not going to stop the government from saying death to America, death to Israel. In fact, it would fuel it. The deal fueled Iran. And now you're going to pick him just as we give $6 billion for a hostage swap to the Iranian government? Where did that $6 billion go? And I know Blinken says, well, to be honest, the money we give Iran has also gone to terrorism. I played the clip earlier when this war started out, when Hamas viciously attacked Israel and the Israeli citizens. And apparently now everybody on the left is still continuing to say Netanyahu better watch out about blowing up civilians. You know, the Biden administration launched airstrike after airstrike, killing civilians. So they should not be lecturing Bibi Netanyahu on this. Joe Biden, the VP, should have no business lecturing Netanyahu. Neither should Obama, who I think, speaking out about this, it's clear who's giving marching orders in Washington. It's got to be President Obama, right? Because Biden can't even string a sentence together sometimes. Most of the time. But that's neither here nor there. What is here is that they're deciding, while quote unquote they say they stand with Israel, they're deciding to pick an ambassador for Israel that has done the complete opposite by supporting, by writing, by being an architect of the Iran deal. That is a slap in the face to our ally Israel. That is a slap in the face to even diplomacy. They talk about all the time in Washington how Trump killed democracy, diplomacy. You think picking an ambassador to Israel who wrote on the Iran deal, is the perfect candidate? It's disgusting. It's just anti-American and anti-Israel. It's gross. It's gross. And I really hope that pick does not get confirmed. Because how can we say we stand with Israel, but pick the ambassador to Israel that's completely doing the opposite by supporting Iran? By supporting Iran. But enough of the bad stuff on this. There is an interesting story coming out tonight. See, I love that Sishin put me on the press list because I get all these different things. There's a group called the Slavic Gospel Association, which are local, which in addition to Jewish Christians, Russian-speaking immigrants, and evangelical churches in Russia, are in Israel right now, providing free groceries and serving hundreds of hot meals daily to overwhelmed Israelis. So shout out to the Slavic Gospel Association. But here's the best part. Nicole Ponder of AMMP and In Christ Communications for releasing this. With evangelical churches distributing groceries and hot meals to hundreds of traumatized families in Israel, some relief teams consist of Ukrainian refugees who fled the conflict in Ukraine and are now in another conflict in Israel. The press release says these courageous individuals are offering hope and comfort to their neighbors in reminding them that God has not forgotten them, even in these dark times. So you know what, Joe Biden? If you can say you're not forgetting Israel, take a look at this story of Ukrainian refugees who fled their own country when Russia attacked. And now we're helping Israel after Hamas attacked in the dark of night. They are being more helpful to Israel than the Biden administration is. I don't care if there's $8 billion going to Israel. I shouldn't say that. I do care. I do care that arms are being provided. Do I like deployment of American soldiers? Not so much, but we have to do everything we can to protect Israel. I get it. But behind the scenes, they're appointing a guy who, wrote the Iran deal. A deal that they didn't even need, JCPOA inspections were not really needed. Basically letting Iran lie about their weapons systems. Do we really think $6 billion and all the money given during the Iran deal has been delivered to humanitarian efforts in Iran? No, I think the Iranian people are more oppressed than the media likes to give them credit. What I mean by that is, they're not a free people in Iran. They're just not. And stop acting like they are. Stop acting like they are. Because unfortunately, like innocent Palestinians, there are innocent Iranians caught in the crosshairs of this that I don't believe subscribe to what their government's telling them. And we saw that. And we saw that with the protests in Iran of the arrest of that young woman last year. We did see a little uprising in Iran, which was good to see. Because someone's got to stop their government. Someone's got to rise up and say, this is not right. And I don't think it's going to be the Biden administration. I really don't. But I'm going to link this article. And there's some video which I can release in the link below as well. SGA.org. And it's an Illinois-based Slavic Gospel Association partnering with Russian-speaking evangelical churches in Israel, distributing free groceries and serving hundreds of hot meals daily to overwhelmed Israelis. Eric Mock is the organization's senior vice president, and the relief teams confirmed include Christians who fled Ukraine. They went to Israel. And now they are in themselves a war zone, but they're helping the victims. And I hope to get Eric Mock on this podcast to talk about these efforts. Because this is not something to ignore. This is a moment not to ignore. And just kudos to refugees who probably fought their damnedest in Ukraine. Even though they fled, I'm sure they fought that what they could, then they had to leave. Because let me tell you, what that Russia-Ukraine war showed is the Ukrainians are some tough people defending their homeland. And I know it's going to be controversial to say, but they're defending their homeland while Zelensky's asking for more money. And not only that, he's on the cover of GQ. I thought this was a wartime situation. That's neither here nor there. Just kudos to the Ukrainian refugees who are now in Israel after fleeing the Ukraine-Russia war. And those people should have a spotlight shining them. And that's why I'm shining it here on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network. A lot of stuff coming up this week. SGA.org. Check it out. As well as the upcoming interview with what he's called himself on Twitter, Free Trade Brian Riley of the National Taxpayers Union, and so much more to come this week on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.